Hi, everybody, and welcome back. We're going to be continuing on learning about Gandhi this week, and we're going to be looking at the second part of his life. Now, it's a couple of weeks since we covered him, so we're just going to do a quick recap there on what his life was like up to this point. So you'll remember that his mother was a giantess. The giant teachings were meant that she believed in pacifism or non-violence, and he got married quite young as well. But then he went on to England and he studied law and spent some time in South Africa where he saw some of the terrible things that happened with apartheid, um, where where um, where he saw that black people were treated very poorly down there, and he kind of felt as though that was incredibly wrong. And then, of course, after that, he went back to his homeland in India. And in India, then again, he saw that there was a lot of injustice being done by Britain against the Indian people, and he launched a number of protests. I think one of the ones that we looked at there was the boycott of English or British goods, which meant that there was going to be less tax and money going to Britain. So that was kind of one of the things that got him in trouble. He ended up in prison for that. So I think that's where we finished off the last day. But what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at the Salt March, which is one of the major things that Gandhi did. And you can see the photograph down below there in this slide as well. It's quite iconic as well of Gandhi on the Salt March. So when he was released, he began a campaign to end the British rule over Indian people. And in 1930, the British introduced a tax on salt. So this hit the poorest people the most. So salt was incredibly important because salt was actually used to preserve food. So if you salt something, it dries it out and kind of it'll last for longer. So this was incredibly important because, of course, back in 1930, the poorest people in India wouldn't have been able to afford any sort of electricity. So therefore, you're ruling out anything like a fridge or a freezer or things like that. They wouldn't have been able to buy those even if they could afford them probably at the time. So as a protest to this tax on salt, Gandhi marched 250 miles to the sea to get his own salt. So that's a massive distance, first of all. So to walk 250 miles, so you think about a marathon, and a marathon being 26 miles, I think it is. So he walked basically 10 marathons just to go and get salt. So thousands of people joined him, and incredibly, 60,000 people, including Gandhi, were arrested for going on this protest march. And it's incredible to think like that. Just going on a peaceful march to go and get your own salt from the sea was considered something that they could arrest you for. But that was the world that Gandhi lived in back in 1930 India. And even today, it's still kind of quite a common form of protest and a common form of raising awareness. You often get people that'll go on walks to raise awareness about different issues. You had a lady there not that long ago who was walking across Ireland to raise the issue of healthcare for her own daughter. So it's still a common method used today and a great peaceful method of raising awareness. And because it's not something that's easy to do. Like if you set off walking around any country, it's going to be tough. It's going to take a toll. So you need to have a lot of resilience, a lot of perseverance to be able to do it. And that's what Gandhi did, along with 60,000 other people. Then ended up getting arrested for it. So there's a lot of things that link in with this, and Irish history. So the campaign and the fight for independence from Britain is a big one here, and we'll see how that links in quite a lot throughout Gandhi's life as well. So next up we have what happened when the British government started to realize that Gandhi was getting a bit of a following and he was getting a bit of influence over people, and they decided to try and kind of make things a bit better for the Indian people. So they eased poverty, so they kind of reduced the number of poor people that were not in Africa, in India. And they grant status and recognition to the people classes, the untouchables. So again, they were trying to make conditions better for everybody in India. And you'll remember as well the last time that India had a caste system. So the caste system, again, just to remind you, meant that if you were of a lower caste, you couldn't interact with people of a higher caste. And basically meant that if you were of a lower caste, it made it nearly impossible to do anything substantial, because there were certain jobs that wouldn't be open to someone in the lower caste. They'd only be open to someone in a higher caste. So because of this, they tried to make sure that because of what Gandhi was saying and because of Gandhi's influence, they tried to make sure that kind of even the people at the lower caste were treated well and fairly, and give them a bit more recognition. So there's a couple of reasons for this. It wasn't entirely because they felt as though they should. Part of it was just because they wanted to kind of keep people quiet and kind of give them, if they give them a little now, it might stop them getting, might stop more protests in the future. They also gave women more rights, which was great. But again, they didn't give complete rights. They just gave more rights. They didn't give all the rights. They just gave more. And eventually, they allowed India to have political independence from Britain, which it's similar to what was happening in Ireland. Just shortly before this, so again, this is the 1930s in India. So just shortly before this, Ireland would have been given independence from Britain. So civil unrest. So the Second World War broke out, and basically a lot of Indian men started fighting for the British Army, and Gandhi opposed this. He felt as though that you shouldn't be fighting for the British Army if you're an Indian citizen, or you shouldn't be it shouldn't be something that should be done. And Gandhi did not see why they should when they were being treated so unfairly at home. So he felt as though, like, if the British are going to treat you so badly in India, well, why should you fight their war for them somewhere else in the world? So this got him arrested, and he spent 2 years in prison because of that. Okay, and again, his wife was also imprisoned at the time, because they just seemed to arrest anyone that had anything to do with Gandhi, and she died in prison not long before Gandhi was released. That was quite a very, very sad ending to their marriage, because he probably would not have gotten to see much of her while they were both in prison. And as someone that was very kind of well known and popular, and he was kind of a divisive figure in some places, it meant that there were some assassination attempts on his life. There were actually 6 attempts to kill him. And one particular man called Nathuram Godse was a Hindu who didn't believe the same things as Gandhi. So he disagreed with Gandhi in a lot of different things, and he tried a number of times to kill him, more than once. So the Congress Party decided it would be better if they split India into 2 halves. So this is after India gained independence. They decided that they were going to split into 2 halves. So one half would be Hindu India, and the other would be Muslim Pakistan. So Gandhi was unhappy about this, and he felt as though that the 2 sides would end up actually going to war with one another. So he tried to make it so as that there was no split. However, he was unsuccessful in that, as there was a split. And of course, we all know the country of Pakistan today is separate from the country of India. Again, this is a very kind of similar connotation to what happened with Ireland, where you had a split between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland after Ireland gained independence, and there's just a very strong link between the 2 situations here. In particular, the split along the lines of religion, whereas in the Republic of Ireland it would have been seen as Catholic, and Northern Ireland would have been seen as Protestant at the time. And because of that split, then that kind of leads to kind of a likelihood of people falling out or disagreeing over religion, which leads to kind of quite a lot of fighting throughout history. So kind of, especially when places get split because of religion, it kind of usually ends badly. So that was what Gandhi wanted to avoid, between the split between the Hindus and the Muslims between India and Pakistan. So Gandhi believed that Pakistan should receive payment from the government for its lost territory. So Pakistan were losing out on land, so Gandhi felt as though they should be paid for that. And other people did not agree and thought Pakistan would use the money to buy weapons and start a war. So again, they were worried that the Muslims in Pakistan would start a war if they gave them any money. So some men tried a 5th time to kill Gandhi because of this. So they disagreed, and then that led to more kind of attempts on his life. But on the 30th of January 1948, Gandhi was on his way to a prayer meeting at Birla House in Delhi, and he was shot 3 times in the chest. Allegedly, his dying words were "Hey Ram," which means "Oh God," which is probably quite an appropriate thing to say after being shot 3 times in the chest. It'd be on my list of things to say as well. So he was on his way to prayer, and it's kind of quite poignant that he was on his way again to do something good and non-violent. And it was violence in the end that took his life. And this is quite a poignant thing to kind of wrap up on here. The Nobel Peace Prize was never given to Gandhi. So he was obviously 3 shots to the chest killed him, and his body was cremated, and his ashes are kept in the Aga Khan's palace in Pune, where he was once kept prisoner. Which, of course, I don't know if I'd want my body kept where I was once kept prisoner, but look, it's where he was placed. And he was nominated 5 times for the Nobel Peace Prize, but he never got it. And in the year he died, the prize was not awarded to anyone. So nobody won the Nobel Peace Prize the year Gandhi died. And the reason given was there was no suitable living candidate. So The point there being that Gandhi would have been, had he been alive, he would have been a suitable living candidate to receive it, but he wasn't there, so there was no suitable living candidate. And his birthday is now a national holiday in India, and it says a lot. I think it says a lot about the Indian people and about Gandhi in particular, that even though he was quite divisive in the area of the split between India and Pakistan, and he nearly kind of leaned towards the side of Pakistan in a way, but India still love him to this day, and the fact that his birthday is still a national holiday, it's incredible. So it kind of shows that you can achieve an awful lot without violence. That violence doesn't necessarily lead to violence doesn't necessarily lead to a solution. Sometimes it can cause more problems. But you can see there the amount that Gandhi achieved through peaceful means, the way that he was able to bring about the end of taxation and high prices on British products in India. He was able to get rid of taxes on salt. He improved rights for people of lower castes in India. He improved women's rights. He did an awful lot for the Indian people, and I think that's worthwhile remembering on his birthday as they celebrate it as a national holiday in India. So I think that he was definitely an influential person, and a very worthy winner of the Nobel Peace Prize had he been alive to receive it. We'll finish up here on a little quote. It says, "An eye for an eye only ends up making the whole world blind." So I think if you take a bit of time to work on that and figure that one out for yourselves, but I think it's very poignant and very appropriate quote for Gandhi, especially as he led such a peaceful life. So look, we'll wrap it up there. I hope you enjoyed learning about Gandhi. He's an incredibly interesting character, and well worth learning about. So look, we'll leave it there for the time being. We'll move on. We'll learn a little bit more about his home country of India in the coming week, and we'll move on from there. All right, so thanks very much for listening. There'll be some questions to go along with this. Best of luck with those, and I'll chat to you really soon. Bye for now.